Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I want to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 after beating the Phantom Liberty DLC and experiencing pretty much everything the game has to offer. I think the game is in fantastic shape right now. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I would highly recommend it to pretty much any gamer out there, whether you're brand new to the game or returning, whether you plan on purchasing the Phantom Liberty DLC or just playing the base game. It is in great shape. I would highly recommend. But I want to go over where the game has been, where it is now, and where it's going in the future, because the franchise still has a ton of potential. We know a sequel is in the works. We know that there is a live action show or movie also on the way. Maybe we'll get another Edge Runners type show as well. There's so much room for growth within this universe, and I'm excited about that. But starting off, let's talk about the initial announcement of Cyberpunk 2077. There was so much fanfare with this game. You had the well-regarded studio CD Projekt Red, well known for the Witcher franchise, who had done a great job on those games, jumping into this brand new, fresh-feeling world that really wasn't matched in video games at the time. And the announcement of Keanu Reeves as one of the main stars was absolutely mind-blowing at the time. Now that we've had Idris Elba in the DLC, it feels even crazier, but just having Keanu Reeves as one of the main stars was insane at the time, and the way it was announced was fantastic. Then we had the launch, which was probably one of the worst launches in the history of video games. It struggled so bad, not only with some issues with bugs and saves and all that kind of good stuff. The world felt empty. Some of the dialogue options got messed up. There was just so many issues. It was so bad that it got pulled from the PlayStation Store for a bit. There were so many problems. The game at certain retailers was down to $5 a copy. And if you didn't pick it up then, I kind of blame you, because it's never reached that point again. But the nice thing about this, and I understand people who will never forgive the studio and the game after such a poor launch. I understand if you'll never play the game again because you were burned so bad. That is fully understandable in my opinion. I don't agree with that personally, just because I want games to be great, and the way CD Projekt Red handled it with consistent free updates was fantastic in my opinion. They did a great job sticking with this game. They could have very well just chalked it, worked on the next Witcher game they knew was going to be a banger, and then left Cyberpunk 2077 to die and forget about it. It's sunk cost, all that kind of good stuff. But instead, they poured time, energy, and resources into revamping the game over time. And they struck gold with the Edge Runners Netflix series. The game on Steam charts and just the player base exploded when Edge Runners came out because it was so popular, and people coming back to the game realized a lot of the issues had been fixed. It was now a really good game. It wasn't perfect. There were still some glaring issues that needed to be worked on, but it was so much better. And then from there, they expanded upon that by adding some Edge Runners stuff into Cyberpunk 2077. So all of that just kind of combined for almost a perfect storm of a rejuvenation where people, their expectations, their ideas around this game completely turned around. And that was what the game needed. It rebounded very well. And I think that sparked the developers to really hone in on the Phantom Liberty DLC, but more importantly, the 2.0 update. Because while a lot of the changes were good, bugs were fixed, issues were addressed, I think the world still felt a little bit lacking at times. There wasn't enough to do consistently outside. You had a lot of side missions and everything, but the world itself, as you're just walking down the street, didn't feel alive as much as you would have wanted to. Like you're in Skyrim, for example, you could be walking through, a dragon comes through, there's bears all around, or a giant, or something's happening pretty much at all times. That's what you want in a game like this, and I think that was one of the things that, outside of the bugs and just unable to continue saves and all that kind of good stuff that hampered the game, that was one of the bigger issues. That has mostly been resolved with the 2.0 update, in my opinion. You've got vehicle combat, which is fantastic and a lot of fun. You've got the police meter like you see in GTA, where you start a fight, you pick on some civilians or some street cops or whatever, and then your star level rises until you're fighting swarms of the PD, and it just gets absolutely insane. You've got within the DLC, you've got these little public event type activities. You've got dungeon type little experiences where you jump in, you can go get a unique piece of gear by defeating a bunch of enemies and then a boss. There's a lot more going on with the game than there was ever before. There's just random gang fights throughout the world that you can kind of jump into and take one side or the other if you really want to. So all of that has really made this game feel like it's much more alive than it initially was, and that is massive. I think that's something that every game can kind of learn from this and understand that not only do you have to have all these side missions and regular missions, the storytelling in Cyberpunk I think was always great. The romanceable options were pretty cool as well, different endings and all that kind of good stuff, but you need the world to feel alive. You need things going on to where whatever you do impacts what's happening in the rest of the world. And I think that's where the game has gotten now, and that is very, very important. Now, is it perfect? I would say no, but I think it's a fantastic building block, not only from the base game and the DLC, but every update that we've seen, everything that they've learned from launch until now into the next iteration of Cyberpunk 2077. We don't know for sure if it's going to be first person or third person. They talked about that with The Witcher and how they aren't sure which direction they're going to go because they are so familiar with the third person style compared to this new first person style they tried with Cyberpunk. So I think maybe like with something like Skyrim where you can alternate between the two, that might be the best option for them. Kind of a best of both worlds, but that might be a lot of added work. I would personally like to see that because I know there's some people that like one, some people like the other. I prefer first person myself. But with the sequel, they could do pretty much anything. I would imagine we're going to see different characters for the most part. Maybe some characters dip in and out as like kind of just like Easter eggs. But overall, I hope they go to a brand new location, a brand new protagonist, brand new antagonist, and all new side characters, maybe even a new celebrity to be the main face of that, which is different from Keanu Reeves, because I don't think it makes sense to bring him back. As much as he's a beloved character in the franchise, Johnny Silverhand is fantastic. I just don't see them bringing him back, and it doesn't make sense, in my personal opinion, to have him around. Maybe you bring back Idris Elba, but again, I don't know if that's really necessary. I think I would rather see somebody new in a brand new location in the world with all different, like, some of the same corporations, different leaders, different experiences, and all that kind of good stuff. I think that would be awesome. As far as the show goes, a live action show is very interesting. Same thing with another Edge Runners type animated show. I think both of those should be standalone stories and not tied to what we experienced in Cyberpunk. One of the best parts about Cyberpunk 2077 is that your choices impacted your playthrough, so that way your ending, especially your first initial ending, was yours. That was your playthrough, and you really made the choices and met the friends and romanced the characters that you wanted to. And so I don't think confusing that with a live action show that has Keanu Reeves in and all that kind of stuff, I don't think that makes sense in my opinion. I think you have a sequel, live action show, and then hopefully an animated show eventually as well, that are complete unique stories and allows you to really expand this world. Because for me, the more you can expand the world of Cyberpunk 2077, the narrative of it, the lore, all of that kind of good stuff will get more people invested. You look at The Witcher is based around one character, and now they're gearing up to eventually have it based on a new character. Maybe they go to Ciri from Geralt, but we'll see. And you leave yourself kind of a hole there where the story is focused on the character and not the world. I want this to be more like a Game of Thrones where everything is focused on the world at large, the interchanging pieces, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's me personally. I would love to hear from you guys on what you guys think on that. But I'm very excited. I think the future of this franchise is bright. I am elated that CD Projekt Red was able to turn this game around, turn it into a fantastic title overall. It is unfortunate that they had to go through the initial launch, but I think it is a lesson learned and one that they will overcome, they have overcome, and will be a marker for future iterations of their games. So I don't see it happening again in the future with one of the Witcher games they have in the future, whether it's a Cyberpunk game that they're going to be working on down the line. All of that, I think we're going to see much better launches. They're going to push the games out farther in order to allow their developers the time to fix all these issues that we saw with the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. And yeah, overall, I'm excited about the future of this franchise. I can't wait to see what they do next. I hope it is as good as this game is right now and the Phantom Liberty DLC is for me, because I think they're both, like, the game as it stands now is probably an 8 out of 10, but the Phantom Liberty DLC is probably a 9 out of 10 for me personally. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the future of Cyberpunk, where it's heading, and where it's been in the past? My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Cyberpunk content. If you're enjoying this type of content as well, like the video. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.